All right. I want to welcome everybody tonight. Thank you for coming. My name is Natalie Fritz, and I am the archivist and director of outreach for the Clark County Historical Society. So that means that my job is I get to see all the cool stuff in the archives, help manage projects and new donations coming in, work with volunteers to make stuff more accessible to people, and help find cool stuff that we can share online and in the newspaper and anywhere that we can in the community. So I'm really excited about this program tonight. We've been doing virtual programs for a few years now. We've started doing them about once a month, and this one is in honor of Springfield's own Jonathan Winters. And yesterday was the 10-year anniversary of his death in 2013. He died on April 11th. So we thought that this would be a good chance for us to share some things from our collection and stories, and let other people share their own memories and stories of him. The reason we came across this idea is that Paul Cronley, who we work with to create audio and video for the Heritage Center, had created some of the promotional videos when the Heritage Center first opened back in 2001. And he sat down with Jonathan Winters to shoot some promotional video. And over the process of that, he actually got some little snippets of interviews with him. And we sat down with Paul late last year to look at stuff that he had made for and done for us in videos that we didn't really realize that we had. And he showed us these Jonathan Winters clips. And we thought, well, this would be great. I don't know. We hadn't seen them before. I think Paul might have been the only one that had actually seen them. So we thought that this would be a great chance for us to share some never before seen interview clips from him, and to just share some stuff from his career and give other people a chance to look back on his life and career. And so this is, as with all of our virtual programs, this is being recorded. We share this afterwards on our Facebook page and on our YouTube channel, so people can watch it there. And we'll probably be uploading some of the direct clips directly onto YouTube as well. Right now, we've muted everybody just to start as they come in, but we do encourage people to participate in these programs. So we definitely want to hear any stories or anything that you can add to the program as we go. But we might keep track of any background noise to mute people if anyone's unmuted, not to talk. If you'd like to use the chat function, we'll keep an eye on that, and you can put stories in the chat or raise your hand or things like that. You know, there's the raise hand function, but you can also physically raise your hand if you have your video on. We'll keep an eye out for you. So I wanted to start with a few pictures from our archives that we have of Jonathan Winters. He was born on November 11th, 1925 in Dayton, Ohio. His father's name was Jonathan Winters, and his mother was Alice Rogers, and she was from the Springfield area. So after his parents divorced in 1932, he moved to Springfield to live with his mother and grandmother. And they lived in the building that the grand home that is now Littleton and Rue Funeral Home. So the picture on the left, if any of you guys were on Facebook today, you might have recognized our Who Is It Wednesday picture. A lot of people recognized him right off the bat. Even as a baby, he had that signature smile, eyes, and face that everybody recognizes. So the picture in the middle is one that we ran across from 1926 newspaper of him with his mother, Alice. We shared that many years ago on our Facebook page to see if anybody recognized who he was, and they recognized him then. And we found the 1927 one more recently. The picture on the right is 1939 Palm Sunday picture at Covenant Presbyterian on High Street. He's circled here, but Howdy Weber, the photographer, is also in this picture. They were good friends, and he always talked about Howdy and coming back to visit him. So he talks a little bit about that in some of the interviews that we're going to look at. Some other things that we have in our archives are our Springfield High School yearbooks. He would have been in the class of 1944, but he enlisted in the Marines and served in the Pacific. And this is from the 1943 yearbook when he was part of the drama club, unsurprisingly. And there's some great pictures of him in the junior, all junior production that they did that year. See him circled in the pictures there. I know that we recently received a 1944 graduation photo, and we looked and we looked and we looked, and that's when we realized, oh, we've forgotten that he had come back and graduated later since he was serving. This is from, the one on the left is from a 2011 interview that he did with Andy McGinn with the newspaper, and it was his last, the last interview that he did locally here. The picture on the right is one of his many visits home where he would get together with his buddies, people from high school. He talks a little bit about that in the interviews, the people that he would come back to see. If there's anybody that is on here that went to school with him or knows, or his family members, we would definitely like to hear information from you. So we've got one of our first videos here while he was sitting down with Paul. As you can imagine, there was lots of takes. They were all great takes, but he would do multiple takes of the bit that he wanted to say for the promo. But between takes, there was lots of laughs. So I decided to start with just a little compilation of those little moments in between, and it ends with one of his the full promos that he was doing.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Winters from Mobile, Alabama. How y'all doing?
Okay, that's good. No, I don't mind that. Okay, you know, gives a little more dimension. Stand by. Great. Cut.
I don't want to put you in a position to answer this, but guys always do this, right? They jump up. How was I? Why do they ask that question? How was I? Because the lady says, Paul and Carl and Brad were better. Well, she's going to say, you're the best. You know, turn away. Hi, I'm Jeff Winters, and we're talking about personal feelings. Okay.
Stand by. This is the 30.
You bet.
And are you going to be serious or what?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Action. Cut. Nearly perfect.
Mississippi. I want to tell you, this could be more than 30 seconds. My name is 14. How y'all doing? Bowl of grits, some catfish, and a tattoo. Hi, I'm Jonathan Winters.
Yeah, no one wants to know who you are.
I know. My family was first to agree with you.
And cut.
Director. After all, I came all the way out here to direct you clown. Had up flying the airplanes, all that crap. Give me one more, for Christ's sake. Yes, but there's no money in it. And no money for me either, really. Not the kind of money I'm used to getting. I'm getting nothing. You're getting a basket of fruit, assorted cheeses, and the makeup lady for just a minute or two to sit here in the studio. Lights out? No. Lights on. Okay.
That was good. That might make the film. You never know.
Oh,
All
please.
right, stand by.
God, my wife would just be kicking my buns through the upright. You make an ass of yourself. Oh, let me alone, lady. Okay, here we go.
Do hi, folks.
Okay, hi, folks.
Stand by. And action.
Hi, folks. At least once a year, I come back to my hometown of Springfield, Ohio.
Stand by.
Looks at, and I can go at the door, about 50 feet away, goes, hey, wow, and does it. That's a print. A guy does this. Jesus, look at this. Holy God, you know, all the way back. See, tells you something. Women are cool. I should have been a woman, and I may turn into one. I may be buried in a dress just to confuse them. And they can set fire to me, and they'll never know. You know, museums are wonderful places. Okay, are we ready to go? Okay.
Everybody quiet, please. Are you speeding? And action.
You know, museums are wonderful places because they tell stories. There you can experience the past and imagine the future. Museums celebrate what we are, our similarities, and our differences. And in Springfield, Ohio, my hometown, there's a brand new museum that's all this and more, the Heritage Center of Clark County. Hi, I'm Jonathan Winters, and I want to tell you about this great spot in the town where I grew up. Here you can walk in the moccasins of an Indian warrior, survey the Ohio wilderness, and rumble westward on the old national road with pioneers in search of the American dream. Here you can experience the stories of the farmer, the laborer, the soldier, the industrialist, and the entertainer. Yes, it's here where I feel I'm at home. I'm going to make it a point to rediscover my roots at the Heritage Center of Clark County in downtown Springfield. Why don't you join me?
Can you guys all hear that okay? And see it okay? All right,
Yes.
thank you. Oh. He shared some stories about his parents.
Oh boy. It's always the guy who does this. Please. I'll tell you one quickie story.
Go ahead, go ahead. Stand by, quiet, please.
I was doing a picture at Universal. Don Weiss was the director, I always remember that. I had a 3-minute scene. That's a long scene, I think. And they allowed me to improvise, so it had to be right. I couldn't stumble and grope or anything else. My dad had never been on a sound stage. A lot of people haven't, so they don't have any idea what's going on. And so I said to him, it was like talking to a child in many ways. He was a stockbroker, and they're fun. Enron. So I said, Dad, this is a big scene for me. And it's going to be 3 minutes. I want you'll be sitting out of range, out of the lights, with the makeup guy, no less, who was gay. And my dad is doing a gay character for the makeup guy, which was really helpful. What did you say? Doing a very bad, you know. Well, we get into the scene. We're almost within 30 seconds of finishing. And the sound guy took off the pods. I could see him out to the left, right. He said, I'm picking up voices here. We're going to have to cut, Don. We're going to have to cut. Cut it. I just knew it was my old man. Later on that day, well, how was I to know? They were way out of range and they wouldn't pick up the voice. Oh, they heard you. I heard you. The point was, the old man didn't give a damn about me. He's doing a joke in front of this queen in the wardrobe, her makeup, and that told me everything. You know, I thought he'd come to see me do this scene. Tells you something, see? So it was a wonderful experience.
Just
Okay.
one of the many, I'm sure. But, I remember seeing...
It's like my mother, when I was in The Russians Are Coming, which is a big picture for me, and Springfield, showed in Springfield. And I said, Mother, did you see down playing the Regency downtown? It's a town of 87,000 people. My mother was in radio, by the way, had her own show, so she was a pro. And I said, did you go down, did you see The Russians Are Coming, the movie I was in? Had a good chunk in it. And she just said, you know, we never go downtown. Loyal people, wonderful. Okay, let's go.
All right. Ready?
Oh boy. It's always the guy who does this.
All right. This one includes some of his early memories of Springfield that he shares.
How long did you live in Springfield, and what has life been like coming from a small community like that and out doing movies? And
I moved to Springfield when I was 7. My mother divorced my dad, and so from I was born in 25. So in 1932, I moved to Springfield. And moved in with my mother, my grandmother, over on South Lime, and I'm sorry, North Lime. I think it was 803 North Limestone, which is now a funeral home. We went to another area. We went out to South Limestone. We went out to 2211 Elmwood, which I went to. I went to Schaefer Junior High. I went to Kiefer Junior High. That's where I met Brooks Lawrence, who became the Cincinnati pitcher, and I went to school with him. And I went on to Springfield High, and then there was only, at that time, Springfield High School was now South High School, and Catholic Central. So there are only two really big high schools in town. Now I think there are 4 or 5.
Did you graduate from Central?
No, I went to Springfield Public.
Okay.
And I came back after the war and got my degree. I needed a couple of... Then I went on to Kenyon College. I lasted there about an hour. Had to maintain a 3.2, which is a B average. And there weren't any women, and I was looking for women. I'm still looking now, but that's all I can do is look. Mrs. Winters has a tight collar on me, and oh, how pretty. Oh, pulls it. One day, not too long ago, talking about women, we won't go into a heavy subject on this, so because my wife and certainly my friends will judge me quickly in Springfield. But I'm sitting on, for some strange reason, on the passenger side, and my wife was driving. I looked over and I saw a very pretty lady, about 35. My wife turned, she has excellent vision, unfortunately, and she said, well, get a good look. So I said, please. Yes, I will. I will. Oh, it looks good. Would you, and I made a major mistake. I said, would you mind circling the block? I'd like to get one more look. She made me get out of the car. Yeah, I had to walk home. So, but I've been married to this lady for 53 years, and we've been through a lot. I don't know anybody that hasn't in 5 years, let alone 53. But needless to say, when people say, what is the answer? The answer is to hide momentarily, wherever you are. Hide, be sure you're not seen under the bed, in the attic.
How long did you live?
It's got to be the best marriage advice that I've heard. We wanted to share a slide here that shows a little bit about what he talked about. We have a picture of his mother, Alice, here, and her met at wedding in 1924 to Jonathan's father. There's a picture up there of the Rogers family home, which is now Littleton and Rue Funeral Home. Clipping from the newspaper for WIZE showing Alice's show, and we have a copy of her WIZE cookbook that she had there. And she did a daily talk show called For Women Only, which had local interviews, music, and women's news features. In the 1960s, she became a newscaster for the radio station, the first woman newscaster to broadcast in the Springfield area. And at that time, she was chosen to speak before several radio clinics in different parts of the country as an outstanding woman broadcaster. She ended up going on to appear with Jonathan on the Jack Parr show in 1958. And she was said to have his same adeptness for voice impersonations. This next clip here is some more stories about his family.
Okay.
All right. Tell me about your mother. You brought her up just a little while ago. Alice Ballman, right?
Yes.
And she was a famous DJ in Springfield.
Well, she was, well, not so much a DJ. My mother started out really in the 30s as an actress. When I say an actress, at that time in the Middle West, they had what they called civic theater, which is little theater. They were Broadway plays, and they just put them together in Ohio or Indiana, Illinois, Nebraska, whatever. But they were originally Broadway plays and had actors, stars in the East, in New York, and then they sent the books out to some local director, and he put the play together. So she had leads in a number of Broadway plays in this label of the Civic Theater. And I used to hear her read, and I'd play, I'd read a prompter, I guess that was the word. Then she fell into a radio job, which, talking about 250 water, WIZE in Springfield. I think WIZE is still there.
Yes, it is.
And she had quite a following and quite a show for a number of years. And I remember when Arlene Francis came through, I was just about ready to go in the Marines, and I was sitting in the studio, and my mother was always, "Be still. You don't say anything, any little gestures in your face or anything else, just sit still and watch me." So I sat there, and Miss Francis came in, and she looked around. First time I'd heard this expression. And she said, who are you? And my mother said, "I'm Alice Bowman. I'll be interviewing you." My mother looked around, or Miss Francis looked around. She said, "This is kind of a Mickey Mouse station." My mother paused and said, "Yes, and you're our Mickey Mouse guest." Which left, but that was my mother. She taught me how to throw some remarks back and forth, and of course it, I'm sure like herself, cost me some work here and there. But I probably learned more from my mother because of her wit. It could be very sarcastic and caustic than I did from my dad. My dad loved to tell jokes, and I used to say to him, which is kind of a normal thing in society, really, whatever field you're in, "I got a joke for you. You get a kick out of this," really. And if it's a long joke, you tend to drop, and so it's a short joke now. But my dad, toward the end of his life, he would say, "I know you don't like jokes, but let me tell you this joke." And he would continue to tell me a joke, which endeared me to him. But my mother did very well. They were both a little tough on me. Somebody said I could go into long stories about both of them, but my mother was a very gifted lady and very bright and did very well in Springfield. And I would hope that the Heritage House somehow includes some footage on her, because she was one of the few successful ladies to come along at that time or any time with that heavy-duty radio show.
We've actually talked about doing that.
Yeah.
So is she still alive?
No, they're both gone.
Do you feel that her involvement in the theater was a catalyst for you to?
I don't know. I just, I think that had always something to do with it. My dad ended up, he had a lot of jobs, and then ended up a stockbroker. And of course, they're funny people today, prove that. They investigated with millions of dollars being taken from people.
These interviews were actually done right after the whole Enron scandal, so that he kind of refers to that a couple times in one of the other interviews. But his father that he's talking, was mentioning, was a part of Winters Bank in Dayton, and it was hit pretty hard by the Depression. Next.
Okay.
All right.
The next slide here, he talks a little bit about where his big break came from.
How'd you get your first big break?
My first break, I guess big break. There are two of them. There were a lot of them, but excuse me. I went to New York in '53, and fortunately, I was able to bring my wife and my boy on after 7 months. And I did Arthur Godfrey's Town Scouts, only Gary Moore was subbing. And I lost, but I became a guest of Gary's and Carol Burnett and those people, and Derwood Kirby later. I lost to a guy, I'll never forget it. I don't think any performer ever really. I knew before I went out, listening to the guy, he went out before me. I knew I was dead in the water when this guy sung, I believe in every tree that grows, a petal falls. I'm like this, oh, gee, it's the Lord's Prayer practically. I died, you know, I didn't die, I got close, but death is death, you know. If you're in a track meet and you're like this, so what, you died. I got the silver medal. Well, that was okay. I went on to work with Gary and Carol and had some fun there. My biggest break, now this is going back, this is in the 50s. I was playing a place called the Rubin Blue in Manhattan. The Rubin, the Copacabana was a big place. The Rubin was small, just off Fifth Avenue. And then they had a place called the Blue Angel in downtown, the Vanguard, Village Vanguard, where a lot of people went. I was in the Rubin, and I was doing my own material, which I tried to do all along. And I'm doing Custer's Last Stand, the creation of a basketball player. I don't know, and a number of offbeats came. But Alistair Cook was in the audience. He had Omnibus, which is a big, big program. And he came backstage, and he said, Mr. Winters, very English, of course, he said, when you did Custer's Last Stand this evening, it was fascinating. Those arrows going in your body. Oh, God. They're here. You're certainly the strangest humor I've ever seen. I love it. I love it. Would you consider being on Omnibus? I said, oh, my God, man. I'd missed out on, I was the only guy to my knowledge of all the people I knew and still know that didn't work Ed Sullivan. I auditioned. That terrible thing about auditioning for one man is terrible. You know, one guy sitting there like this looking at you. And I did a fast 3 minutes. And he, Mr. Letty, Mark Letty, he's dead. And he said, son, what is your name again? Jonathan Winters? Yeah. I don't think Mr. Sullivan would understand you, okay? And I looked at him and I said, Mr. Letty, I don't think you understood it. Out. But they understood it in Omnibus, and Mr. Cook turned to me and he said, I love your work. You must come on and be a part of it. So I was the first stand-up comedian to work Omnibus. Then I think Mort Saul came on, and Shelley Berman and other people came on it. For that.
How'd you...
Winter Brothers present General Custer at Little Bullhorn. In the days following the Civil War, lawlessness reigned in the panhandle country of Texas. However, that has nothing to do with our story. Our story deals with the heroic deeds of one of those hardy pioneers who carved an oasis out of the wild and untamed West. Among those illustrious names are found Daniel Boone, Wyatt Earp, Davy Crockett, Sam Houston, Mel Dallas, Luigi San Antonio, and General George Armstrong Custer.
I was reading a little history the other day, American history. And I was reading about famous American generals and what they said not only in victory, but in defeat. And I came across one outstanding name, that of General George Armstrong Custer. There was a lot said about him, but not really what he said in those last few horrible moments when he went down at the Little Bighorn for the last time. But I should imagine General Custer, knowing the situation, some 3,000 Sioux on there on the far ridge, and he with only 212 men, might have said something like this.
It isn't going to be easy. It isn't going to be easy. I see two of our scouts are riding up now. You have anything unusual to report, Lieutenant? These arrows speak for themselves. Get that man a canteen of booze.
General, what's happening to us? There are 15 women folk back in the wagon train, and they're sick. They're full of fungi, and berry, and the water line is low. Merciful heavens, what get that woman away from me?
Sergeant Elmo Dean, saddle up a steed. We're going up there to see the Sioux. Dun, 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 dun.
Sitting Bull, tomorrow in big sunrise,
All Sioux Nation, wipe out Custer, that little bighorn. Wasawachie. You speak, Crazy Horse. You're not only Crazy Horse, you crazy, crazy, crazy horse. You Custer.
That's right, I kid you not. General George Armstrong Custer. They call me Yellow Hair. And let me tell you something, all them Sioux. We ain't about to be outnumbered. We've got better than 3,000 of our own men down there in the pass. Right, Sergeant Elmo Dean? No. What did I just get through telling you? I said we have better than 3,000 of our own men down there in the pass. Right, Sergeant Elmo Dean? No. Private Elmo Dean and I are riding back.
General, what did they say? Will there be trouble with those savages? Will they want to get that woman away from me?
Well, you know something, Bart? I've been with the General for a long time. I got a feeling this might be his last stand.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised. Don't look too good up over that far ridge, does it?
No, it don't. It sure don't. Them ain't birds. Them's Injuns.
That's a loud Indian.
Get them way, cut the horses, get the women on down to the water line. Nice looking boy.
General, what are they doing to us? They're wiping us out.
Get that woman away from me. I see you're dying, General. You have anything famous to say before you die?
Yes, I do. Just get that woman away from me.
That's one of my favorite clips of him. We actually have that one on the museum that plays in our theater on the first floor. And I swear every time I walk by the theater, he's doing the pulling the arrows out of himself. So that's what I always think of when I think of Jonathan Winters, is that Custer's last stand. That's the clip that he was talking about that they saw during when he got his big break. And another thing that he was very well known for was It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. So he tells the story about that.
Right. Well, I remember seeing It's a Mad, 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 Mad
Right.
World.
Yeah.
And I actually just watched it with my kids a few days ago to get ready for this. And some of those scenes could not have been scripted.
Believe it or not, all those scenes were scripted. The only line, to my knowledge, that wasn't scripted, it was so well written and worked.
Stand by.
That okay.
Only when I'm asking the question.
Oh,
If he's talking, don't take a picture.
oh, okay.
As a matter of fact, just forget it. Just forget the camera right now. Go ahead.
I worked on that, I guess it was close to a year. And the whole show was very tight and certainly well written. Stanley Kramer is no longer with us, was the director, is a great guy, and it literally opened a huge door for me, and my whole career blossomed. It was like, I guess, Gable being, #1 at MGM and doing an incredible amount of movies until he did Gone with the Wind, which really skyrocketed him past anything he almost ever did. I felt the same thing with doing Mad World. The only line that I had, which was really ad-libbed, was with Dick Shawn when we're looking for the treasure at the 29 Palm scene. It was under the palm trees. And we're down there in the pit digging. And Dick kept saying, "Look, baby, I'm telling you, man, we're getting close. Don't just, lean on your shovel. Let's move it, baby." And I turned to him for some reason or other, and I said, "Hey, man, stop calling me baby." And that was the only kind of a funky ad lib that we had.
And they put that in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. What was it like working with,
Oh.
more than a dozen greats in that movie?
Well, you're talking about Tracy, #1, Dick Shawn, who's to me was always a great talent. I think it was a great loss that, for the most part, the people, the nation, didn't really get to see that much of him. He was just such a gifted performer. Ethel Merman, Terry Thomas, Milton Berle, and Edie Adams. I'm trying to think, the guy that played Vilko was, oh, I can't think of it right now. No, Bill Silvers, yeah. And that's just a name, you know. Paul Ford was in this picture. Buster Keaton was in. They had an endless amount of people in it. So it was probably, it goes without saying, the biggest picture. And I still get people coming up and saying, from several generations, you know, you played the truck driver, what'd you do in the gas station? And we did that, by the way, in one take. It had to work that way. The guys that, the grips that put that thing together, just something else. And I remember it was interesting because before we shot this thing, Arnold Stang, who was one of the gasoline attendants, had a couple of weeks off, went back to Beverly Hills, and fell in a swimming pool, no less, and broke his arm. So when he came back to shoot the scene in the gas station, he's got his arm covered up, and he's dealing with a broken. I thought, oh my God, if I start, you know, moving on this guy and break his arm again. So I was really uptight about that. But nothing happened, thank God, and we did the scene. But that thing in that gas station, where we really go berserk, was whatever aggression I had, or whatever memories of getting beaten up or bullies or the war or anything else really came out.
So
But
what was the deal with the Three Stooges? It seemed like they just kind of popped them in there. Just,
yeah.
Was that just
Well, he took little, you know, cameo. Well, it's like Jack Benny, Jerry Lewis. They popped them in here and there, so it made a cast of, when you say thousands, it seemed like that, certainly.
And what about Tracy? I read something recently that he didn't really go by the script too much. And he just like read the script a few days ahead of time and then just came in and did the scene. I can't really say. I think Tracy, about that time, if you looked at Tracy, he had aged considerably. I think after that he went to the Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, and maybe it was Judgment in Nuremberg. Only a couple more pictures and he was gone. He was having a lot of problems, I can tell you that. And so I can't really answer for him. I wouldn't want to in any way put him down. And Stanley Kramer, as the director, was just loved, you know, Spence, and so I wouldn't want to endanger that remark ever. right. Well, I remember seeing it.
There's on YouTube, there's about a 11 or 12 minute clip together of all of Jonathan Winter's parts in this film. But I just did the specific one that he talked about at the end here.
I'll catch you, I'll kill you. I tell you, I'll kill you, you dirty robber.
Someone you know?
That we should all share in one equal share apiece. Is that right?
That's right. Melville's right.
So we all know that. Look, there's no reason. Oh, no. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. It's him, all right? Yeah. You got this wrong. I tell you, you'll apologize. Forget. I'm your friend. No, you got me. Oh, he's so neurotic. Can't you do something? Oh, yes, sir. He's very neurotic. I'm your friend.
Get my hands on you. I tell you,
Why, that's it. Sure. Look. It's a big W, I tell you. It's a big W. Look at it. From nowhere. Wait a minute. There's not enough room, man. You're bugging me. You're bugging me.
What are you talking about, bugging?
Cut out. What is this cutout talk?
Out, baby, out, baby, out!
Don't call me
Out.
baby.
So another thing that Winters was known for was for painting, and we actually have a copy of his painting book up in the archives here. And here Paul asks him about how he got into painting.
Internet, and I saw some of your paintings, and they're very interesting. What has inspired you to create some of those images?
Well, I started out, that's how I met my wife. I was born in Dayton, while I grew up in Springfield. I was born in Dayton, and I spent the first 7 years there, and then went to Springfield and went through grade school and high school. And really didn't, I wasn't really motivated to do much of anything other than I was having a lot of problems with my mother and my dad, and not that I was any extremely bad cat and hadn't done any time, any place in a detention home or anything. I wasn't stealing or doing anything, but it was just a chemistry that wasn't happening between either parent. But coming out of the war, I went in the Marines when I was 17, and came out, and I decided I wanted to paint. And my dad kind of raised an eyebrow. "I want to paint? Sounds like you're kind of queer." And I said, "No." I said, and of course I was always tempted to put him on and say, "Oh, Daddy, why would you say that?" But I didn't, it'd be a little frightening. He'd probably have a stroke. At any rate, I went to art school in Dayton. And I guess I was in my third year, and I met my wife. She'd gotten her BA, I believe, at Miami. Maybe it was Drake. She went to several colleges, ended up getting her master's in art history at Ohio State. So I told her I wanted to paint, and she said, "I've been looking at your paintings, and you better think about another area." So I got in with WING in Dayton and was a disc jockey. This is a long answer to a short question, but I always wanted to paint, and I still paint to this day. I didn't have a style, which now we're talking about 1948, 49, and I started in 47, 48, so 47, 48, 49, and I was geared toward mostly commercial art, but I didn't have a style that I wanted to paint once I got out. And so but I began to study other artists and take a look at other people who were painting. I've always been motivated by the Native American, the American Indian, and his colors and his design. So I combined my own surrealistic point with a kind of primitive. And today I'm doing a lot of sketches and things, and I've got to get back to painting. I've been doing more writing than I have painting. But I miss I want to paint some more. And it's always, to me, I've always considered the artist, not downing the guy in show business or in the field of entertainment, but artists seem to be a little deeper for me. They're a little more observant. Actors are damn good observers and directors and technicians, but they go a little bit deeper into it. And that's why I kind of cling to the art.
Yeah, I can see a resemblance in the
Yeah.
American.
Yeah.
And even I've seen some art from Canada.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah.
It's similar to that.
The Tlingit and the Haidas up in British Columbia. Yeah.
Okay, can we stand by and change tapes? Internet.
Here's a slide with a couple of the paintings that you can find in that book. It's called Hang-Ups. And it's interesting, his mind, where he comes up with this stuff. I don't know if anybody out there has the book. Well, I wanted to pause here for a bit because there's some stories that people have mentioned in the comments that tie in with we had someone that couldn't couldn't come tonight. John Bartley with Northampton Historical Society is doing a presentation for the New Carlisle Historical Society tonight, so he couldn't make it. But he wanted to send along some stories. And he talked about John had taught at Kiefer Junior High, and he said about 50 years ago he was in the teacher's lounge with the health teacher and junior high athletic director, Mr. Roberts, and he talked about many years before when he was teaching health, every time he turned towards the board, there would be this funny squeaking sound and students would start giggling. After this happened several times, he went to the back of the room where a student was screwing a huge wood screw into the top of the desk. Accompanying the student to the door on his way to the office, he said, "Mr. Jonathan Winters, don't you think for 1 minute that you're going to be able to make a living making people laugh?" I thought that was a great story. And Warren in the comments mentioned Coach Roberts saying that there was this weird little kid who roamed the halls making funny sounds, and that was Jonathan Winters. So John had another story to share about his wife Margie was the librarian at Springfield High School, and years later Jonathan returned with a film crew to record a A&E biography outside South High School. She was the librarian, and she was asked to be there in case they wanted to look through yearbooks or anything out of the school archives. She said that the filming took longer than it should have because when the cameras were turned off, Winters would lapse into one of his many characters and frustrate or crack up the crew. She said that it was in the fall, and one maple was in full color, and she remembers him saying that's what he misses about Ohio. And then the last story he shared was that many people know that he appreciated art, but he was also an antiques collector, and he collected early bottles, much like Mr. Bartley, who's talking about bottles tonight. On his visits to the area, well-known local collectors might get a call in the evening from Maud Frickert or Elwood P. Suggs asking if they would be willing to trade their old bottles for chicken, eggs, or pigs if he came over. Great story there. Kim says she has a copy of his book.
Yeah, I actually bought it earlier this year at a flea market in Springfield. And he has a great use of colors and composition, and the way he integrates, like just this painting that you have on the right, where he has, you know, the painting of the aircraft, but then he's taken bits and pieces of it and put it throughout the painting. It's very comical and whimsical and really clever, I think. And like I said, I love his use of colors. That book is fascinating.
Yeah, it's a really, really great, colorful book. Very, very eclectic art style.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty unique.
He talked a bit about the comedy that came before him, his era of comedy, and the comedians that were in the late 90s, early 2000s when he was talking to Paul here.
You were born the same year my mother was, so I'm just wondering if that was before.
Where was she born?
When?
Where was she born?
She was born in Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So she had a chance to go to Manhattan to see.
Yeah, I was wondering about from the Midwest if you ever.
The only guys I saw were Wheeler and Woolsey, believe it or not. That's a team that's going back. This is in the 30s. See, by the time I was born, vaudeville was just about ready to wind up. It was just about gone. Television came in about 1950 in the Middle West.
So you killed vaudeville?
Mm-hmm, yeah. Very proud of that. I always, you know, I didn't know whether I felt sorry or admired those guys. To do 6 shows a day, which a lot of them did, and go all over the country. An interesting thing which would drive me crazy is to be married and expected to do the same act wherever you went, because they wanted you to do the same routine. Boy, I got to change my routine every 20 minutes if I can. I mean, you have set routines you do, but God forbid that you bring up the word improvisation. Oh, please don't do that.
And plus, it was all live music.
I thought...
You know, they had to have a piano player, or, you know.
Oh, yeah. I felt that These are the guys that I miss today. I miss Fields. Groucho was brilliant. I loved Laurel and Hardy. I still think they're two of the funniest guys you knew what was going to happen. I mean, and yet you didn't know. I mean, it was that there'd be a spider under the cup, and please, don't touch that. You know where I was staying with, don't touch that, Ollie, because there's a spider under there. What are you kidding, a spider? There's no spider under there. I'm going to lift the cup up and show you that there's no spider there. Yeah. And that was it. The spider was there. But these guys were fun. I felt that, I think what is, to me, is hurt, and again, I find myself defending myself. It has nothing to do with my religion or my politics. It has to do with me and my overall moral thing, which I guess is tied in some way. But why you have to be filthy in order to be funny, I disagree with. Because then if we're going to use this kind of language, then we should take every good novel, we should take every, from Dickens to Shakespeare to Faulkner to all of them, and just change all the dialogue in the book. Where will it end? If this is the only way you can express yourself, you're in trouble. I spent almost 3 years in the Marines and we didn't talk that way. Not that we're being a hypocrite. I mean, when we got in with women and children, you kind of, you know, any morning you go home to see your mother, Dad, would you use all that kind of language? I don't think so. I don't think so. Maybe you do, but all I know, it wasn't a question of wash your mouth out with soap. Get the hell out of the house. I don't want to hear that. But I know you can be funny without being dirty.
Well, you just answered one of my questions. I was going to ask you how you think the comedians of your time stack up to the comedians of today.
Well, that's a very, of course, a sensitive answer on my part and question. I have to be very careful as to make a major shot at those guys. I would say this. I'm a good friend of Williams. I worked with him, of Robin. I disagree with his language, and I'm sure he knows that by this time. He doesn't need that. And I grew up with Lenny Bruce, and he didn't need that. He went to it, but then the drugs play an important part in your overall, problem. I find that I miss Johnny Carson because the reason being Johnny Carson listened to you. He was concerned about, he wouldn't have you on unless he wanted you to deliver. And keep in mind, I certainly kept in mind, I know he did, that he was on all year. You were on maybe 6 shots. So you want those shots to be good, and he wanted you to, and he made you look good. He would come in, talk about improvisation. These other guys don't do that. I don't know why. I think I know why. I think that there's still an insecurity in both Letterman and Leno. What are we going to talk about? Johnny would come in, all I know, Parr, but certainly Carson, and say, what do you want to talk about? Well, I thought to talk about growing up on a farm in Dayton the first 7 years. What was it like? Well, Dad was drunk, and we bought this farm, and he was drinking. And he told me to go out and play, and okay, save it for the air. That was as far as we went. I'd come out through the curtain, here's Johnny Winters. Hey, Johnny, you were born in Dayton and lived on a farm for the first 7 years. And then you went on to Springfield and spent the bulk of your life there before you went into service. I grew up in Norfolk, Nebraska. What about this farm thing? What was it like? Well, Dad was signing papers on an old kitchen table, and this guy looked at me like bad news. I was a kid, 7, but go out and play. It was always go out and play. So I went out and played. I came back in after about a half hour. I said, the cows are dead, Dad. And the guy was got in the papers. They're not dead. They're resting. Cry. It's summertime. They're tired. Tired? They're dead, Dad. Okay, so they're dead, Mr. Winters. You sold me, Dad. Gasoline. Dead cows. And my dad said, you ever try to milk a dead cow? Like this. Lying down. So it's a little black humor, you see, but that's the thing you do. I would do with Johnny. I think these two guys are basically looking and listening for what the overnights are all about, the ranking, you know, where are we? It isn't a question of knocking down Leno or Letterman. There's a lot I just don't understand. I mean, Steve Allen, I love Steve. Steve played piano, and Steve knew humor, and he played with you. And it's very difficult for me to play with these guys. And you end up going back to the green room, getting a basket of fruit, assorted cheeses, 2 cans of Pepsi, and a picture of Leno when he in the Ferrari. It's a lot of fun.
You were born the same.
If you really want to know about Johnny Winters, you would do well to get this book. He's a talented painter. It's called Hang-Ups. But you look at some of these paintings, you get a pretty good insight into what goes on in that mind, and I have no idea what it is. He's a funny, funny man. Anyway, the book is out now. It's available. It's called Hang-Ups, and here is Jonathan Winters.
Good evening, sir.
Carry on.
Yes, I love you. Take your clothes off and come down here, young man.
That's a good rejoinder.
That's not one of the paintings, by the way.
That'll take care of him.
It's awful hard to get people to pose in the nude.
I was looking at this. You got some.
The elderly will never pose. You don't see an elderly woman, you know, in one of those magazines.
I just got
It's interesting, a woman 75, shriveled, you know. Nothing on pay. I'm not against people. I'm getting shriveled myself, especially there.
I'm looking for one.
What are you looking for?
I'm just looking for one.
Take your time. You won't be graded until well after 8. Pencils down. You people with the blue
I
book.
can't find it now. It was the first and last day of spring.
Oh, yes, that's here.
Huh?
Here, let me help
Where
you.
is that? I just happened to see that. Do you know where that is?
I know the book. It's right on the cover.
Look at that.
Oh, here.
First, that's
this is it.
The first and last day of spring.
First and last day of spring. One woman asked me about these little black things. She said, "Are they licorice?" And I said, "Yeah, and they really stick to the town." But it's without, you know, bodies flying in the air and everything. It does tell you these obviously are little trees. I say obviously. A lot of people, to me, it's obvious they're little trees. I painted them. And this is a little village, and then the bombs dropping. It's the first last day. A little comment.
Yes, it is.
It can't happen, you know.
Let's hope not.
Might not be in the spring. Might be late September.
Yeah.
I'm not big on predictions. Are you?
No. You didn't get into art by entering one of those little matchbook ads. They're still out, you know. Could draw the pirate, or have you seen those? Famous art school. You can draw.
Yes, I have seen.
And you draw the parrot or a little pirate, and you send it in.
I did a combination, and was still turned down. I did.
You mean they turned somebody down?
Oh, sure. I did the parrot, apparently on the wrong shoulder of the pirate, and then I did the pirate eating the parrot. And the guy sent me a heavy-duty letter. He said, "Obviously, you got big problems." Of course, I was writing from the place.
Yeah. The farm, huh?
Yeah, I was away at the time.
Where did you took art courses?
Oh, yes, I believe in school. I had a tough time in the regular school.
When did trouble start? How old were you when trouble started?
Oh, I would say kindergarten was a problem. Kindergarten was a problem for me. I remember trying to make a clay rabbit and had all day. You know, usually you should be able to make one before lunch. And I just like this, and Mrs. McCauley came over. "How are we doing?" I always bugged me. And I was a little kid then. I had no brothers or sisters. And I didn't have, you know, nearly as much weight. Problem, I was a rather attractive kid, as a matter of fact. At recess, I got lucky, but at any rate, when the teachers say, and a lot of people say, you know, "How are we doing?" What does this mean? Why can't you say, "How are you doing?" You know, but they say that in hospitals. "How are we today?" Not good. See him? He doesn't like you.
So Mrs. McCauley was giving you trouble already.
So Mrs. McCauley, she said there's no reason for you to continue on in the first grade if you can't make a bunny.
Oh.
But I fooled her. I was kind of a papier-mâché intellectual. I went around her, skipped the first grade entirely, committed myself to the attic, and stayed there. Read a lot of magazines, oh yeah, and listened to the squirrels wandering around, and then came down in time for the second grade. And I had a lot of problems, but I did manage to get through school. I find there are a lot of presidents, not a lot, but a few, that have not had the great education and managed to pick it up later on, you know, maybe through theft, I don't know, or what. But at any rate, coming out of the service, my father said, which is standard, I think, for most fathers to a boy, he said, what are you going to do, kid? You haven't done anything for the last 3 years with yourself. Of course, when I was a corporal, I mean, that was a big thing to me. You know, a corporal. I was told that if you made corporal, you were as good as a general. Yeah. I believed that. When the man came by in the Jeep on the, you know, at the Navy Yard and I saluted him, that was my salute, you know? He was an Army general, had no business on a Navy base. I said, I'm better than you. I'm a corporal in the Marines, okay? Oh, hey, heavy. So I thought maybe the guys were coming out with Uzis for a moment. But we never know today whether, you know.
We have to cut away for a moment.
Really? Why?
Yeah, Mr. DeCorda was telling me.
I had no word on that.
Yes.
Should have briefed me, Johnny.
You didn't hear that, huh?
No, I didn't hear that.
But we'll come right back here. Yes, we will.
I just wanted to pause for a second. The next clip is him with Robin Williams, who we know he influenced Williams a lot. I just want to let you know we have about this will probably go to about 8:30. I know sometimes we get these under an hour, but with the clips of this one, this is go a bit longer. So I just want to let you guys know before we continue on with more of these.
You knew Jonathan was going to be?
No, I walked in and went, "You're alive! You're alive! We miss you at the institution, Governor." Look at us, look out here. We're just sitting around going, The Reagan's at home, Nancy. How are you, Pop?
Well, I hung on to that tailpiece of the airplane and I came in okay. That Scotch tape, you know, face back like this. Coming in, final approach.
How long did you guys work together on the TV show?
We worked 1 year, and then they bagged us.
Yeah.
And there's a man named Nielsen went, both of them. Get rid of him.
Well, you had, in all deference to you and Pam, they had 4 years.
Yeah.
And
was it fun being?
Yeah, we used to drive them out. They'd lose all the film, and then we kept going.
Yeah.
A good time. Remember, Dad?
You know, just the fact that you'd come over here with...
Dad, did you sign those papers? Did you sign the papers? We need the house, Daddy. Did you sign the papers?
Are these the ones? Huh?
That's it, but you signed it upside down again.
I still love you.
Mother misses you. She found another man, a large black man.
There we go. If he's a please ball.
Jonathan, thank you very much for being here. Nice to see you. Robin, great to see you. Thanks for coming in. We're going to do a commercial. We'll be right back with Judy Moore.
This is from the Springfield News Sun collection. It had the clippings of him from when he was on Mork and Mindy, and it had the description of the episode where he was first introduced as this was the birth of mirth. This was
You don't want to miss this like you did Beverly Hills and Marine Man. This is it, Min. Isn't much nicer having a baby at home rather than in the hospital?
No, it's important that we don't panic. And if we panic, it's important we're not laughing.
Oh, I just hope it's healthy.
I just hope it doesn't make the bedroom set.
love you, men.
It's a boar. It's a man.
Here he talks a bit about the inspiration behind his different characters.
And you have a lot of hilarious characters, and I'm curious to know if are any of those characters from Springfield?
Oh
Ohio?
yeah, oh yeah. My character Elwood P. Suggins is just really a product, not just of Springfield, Dayton, like Bell Fountain, Washington Courthouse, and southwestern Ohio. And the guy is, Elwood P. Suggins. Mr. Suggins, I started out doing, you witnessed a saucer. You're from Mumford, Ohio. We were the television crew here. And you and your son saw a flying saucer here just 2 nights ago? Yes, I did. I've never wanted that took to drink. My dad drunk, and my granddad, and my cousins all drank. I never took to drink. So it had nothing to do with my being an alcoholic or anything of that sort. My stepson drinks, but light beer, whatever. He was with me, and he wasn't stoned or bombed. He's odd. He's had some bad falls. He fell on his own axe and just almost opened up his head. But he's all right. He'll be all right. He's a good field worker. And we had the little dog, Whiskers, and we went out there. I seen this glow, and it scared me because it wasn't no light off a truck or nothing. It was a flying saucer. And my stepson put his hands up like this, and the dog barked at the spaceman. He'd come down the ladder. He looked like, and he didn't have them sloped eyes or anything like that. He looked like any one of us. He looked like he'd been worked over at Wright's Field. And the dog barked too much at him, and the spaceman dissolved the dog. I cried. I said that was the wrong thing to do, to dissolve the boy's dog. And they got him on the ladder, and he went up there, and it was gone. I called the officials, and people at Wright's Field come over, and the Air Force, and they didn't know what to do. They said, they took a lot of pictures and everything, and then your two TV people come over, and that was it. I've lived over here all my life. I've never seen anything like this. It's just powerful. Awesome, as the stepson would say, awesome. It was awesome. That's the guy. Maud Frickert came from an aunt I had. I drew on a lot of people that I grew up with, and actually exaggerated, I had worked with 2 guys from Kentucky who came over to work at Buckeye Incubator in Springfield. It's gone now. My stepfather worked over there. And I used to pick up 90-pound stoves and trying to get in shape to go in the Corps. And 2 guys, we called them the Gold Dust Twins, came over from northern Kentucky, and I said, at a lunch period one time at Buckeye, I said, tell me, guys, you're from Kentucky. Where did you first work when you came into Ohio? We was over there at the White Box Company. The White Box Company. Yeah, the White Box Company, just outside Dayton. What kind of white boxes? Well, there's a box like this, up on top, small, where they put ice cubes and things. And then there's a lower part where they put vegetables. They had plastic vegetables in there that looked like real cauliflower and carrots. Well, that would be Frigidaire. That's what I said, the White Box Company. We knew that they wouldn't be with us much longer. But your material literally is everywhere, it really is.
Merleville, Ohio, Elwood P. Suggan. Here's Elwood.
I'm so excited today because, as I say, we had the assistant to the mayor come over. Boy, that was bit by an owl or something. At any rate, we've got Mr. Dean Martin is going to be on. Mr. Martin, are you out there anywhere?
Yes.
Listen, just take a seat right there.
Okay.
No, over here. Over here.
Well, you said take it.
Well, oh, you're just like you are on TV. Yeah, you sit down there.
Okay.
Boy, that's a good-looking suit. Oh, incidentally, this is made out by the Boynton brothers. Howard Boynton puts these suits out for me, makes them down there. People make them at the home.
Merleville, Ohio.
Yes. Oh, that's no trouble at all, sir. Fine. I'll see you then. Thank you. Goodbye. Good afternoon, madam. Is there something that I can do for you?
Oh, you're darn right there is, Sonny.
No, what I meant was, is there anything here in the store that you'd like to see?
Yes, but it's been so long, I don't think I'd recognize it.
Say, don't I know you?
Yes, my name's Marty. You bet. The quality goes in before the name goes on.
Oh, that's a very famous slogan.
Yes, I got it from the guy that sold me this set.
Oh, is that your TV set?
Yes, the mister bought this for me in 1948. You want to try and lift it?
Oh, no, thank you.
No?
No, I guess they made them pretty heavy in those days, didn't they?
Yes, you know, after the mister carried it home, it was the end of our funky hour for 9 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I guess you'd be interested in a trade-in then, wouldn't you?
Yes, and this time I want a Hungarian. They're hot-blooded, you know.
Oh.
There's one down the street there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's tearing apart a used car.
No, well, what I meant was on the trade-in, I meant the TV set. Here, let me show you one of our new models right here.
Oh,
There.
mercy. Lucy's hair's on fire.
No. Her hair is red. That's a color set you've got there.
Oh, color? Who wants color?
Oh, well, I thought you...
Well, between the varicose veins and the bloodshot eyes at the home, I get all the color I can take.
Oh.
I want black and white.
But
besides, I tell you, if I saw Chet Everett in living color, I'd jump through the picture to him.
Madam, let me...
No, look, are you going to give me black or white, or am I going to drop you?
Well, if you want it, black and white is what you want. Here, let me just show you one of our latest zeniths right here.
Oh.
Look at that. Feel how nice and light that is.
Oh.
There.
Oh, that's so cute. It is light, isn't it? I think I'll take this one.
Good. Now, will that be cash or charge?
Charge? You do take Medicare cards, don't you? Huh?
Oh, yes, certainly.
For a moment, I thought you'd lost your hearing.
What?
Huh? Good Lord, we're both deaf.
I've got a few slides here that from the new Sun files of times when he came back to Springfield. In 1984, he played at Memorial Hall, and I don't know if anybody remembers going to that. The one on the right is in 1979. He received a honorary degree from Wittenberg and spoke at their commencement. There was in the comments, Jim Petroff had a story that he wanted to share about an interaction in Malibu. If you wanted to, I don't know if you want to unmute at this point, Jim, you can share that story.
Yes, thank you very much, Natalie. And I want to just first give you high commentary on these presentations. They're wonderful. I'm really enjoying them, and my wife is as well. But I have about a 30-second story to share. My sister, I was living in Santa Monica, and there was a little cafe in Malibu called Beecher's Cafe that was tucked away in a shopping center. And it was a place where a lot of stars would go because it was a place where they could relax. And so my sister was visiting, and she and I went there, and Jonathan Winters and Lucille Ball were having dinner. So after Vicki and I were finished and we were in our car, they had both come out and parted ways, and Jonathan Winters was walking toward our car. And we were going back and forth. Should we talk to him? Should we not? Well, we are from Springfield. Well, should we talk to him? And so I rolled down the window and said, "Excuse me, Mr. Winters." And he walks over and slams his hands down and he says, "Pop the hood, I'll fix whatever's wrong." So I said, "Well, believe it or not, we went to the same high school." And he said, "Springfield High?" And I said, "Wildcats." And so he stood there outside the car, waving his hands back and forth, and sang the Springfield Wildcat song for us. So he's just a really fine man, not just on camera, but to anybody he happens to meet in a parking lot somewhere.
That's a great story. Sounds like he would have been made friends with anybody he saw.
Yes. Thank you for letting me share.
Oh, thank you for sharing. Well, this next one here, I think they're on the call, Kim and Don. Kim sent me some scans of these letters here that Jonathan had sent to Don to thank him for getting him some Cleveland Indians gear, and both the 94 and the 95 seasons, which were big years for the team.
Yeah, Dad, do you have any any memories of these letters, or why he sent them to you, or had you corresponded with him?
Well, when we had that Springfield High School jacket, he sent those back to that. There, he came in the store one day, and that's the only time. And we were having a golf outing, and some of us weren't here. And he came in with the girls that were working there, and they couldn't believe who it was. Well, luckily at the same time, a fellow that was in school with him called I can't remember, but he came in at the same time, and they had been in school at the same time, and they started telling jokes, and they stood there for a long time and told us about how they were there and hadn't seen each other in years. It was Harry Poland was his name.
Well, I know in the one letter he talks about that it was 94 that he had fun coming back to visit during the Springfield High School reunion. So that was their 50-year reunion that time. And thank you for the Indians jacket. And then the one in 95, he said, he'd always been a Cincy fan and hoped, like we all do, that someday there'll be a all Ohio series. So he said he was going to wear them around Santa Barbara to show people his Indians gear.
He actually wore a jacket that a Springfield South High jacket that Meeks or Dad made for him, and he wore it on the Johnny Carson show. So that was kind of a cool thing too.
Is that this one here?
Yes.
That's one.
Yeah.
That's a Springfield High jacket that they used to give to the letter winners, and he wanted one of those, so we had to get that letter. We went up to South High, and they gave him that letter that goes on the front, and we had it sewn on and shipped out to him.
So he got an honorary letter.
Yeah. No, he was a funny person.
So he lettered in comedy. They should.
Yeah. I worked at the Coca-Cola plant the same time he did. He drove a Coca-Cola truck, and we went out up a street that I didn't even know where it was, and he said, "Well, you're going to drive it now," and we parked on the hill. And I'd never driven before. And he said, "Well, you're driving today." And that's what we tried to do. We got out of it. That was the old Coca-Cola trucks where they had to reach up high and get them down. And you would carry them into these little stores all around town. Didn't have any big stores. Did have Fulmers. but he was funny. About every morning, he would put on a show at the Coca-Cola plant before all the drivers that went out to deliver those things.
I don't think I realized that he had worked at the Coca-Cola plant. I didn't see that mentioned anywhere. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Well, he did. He worked there. See, he and Bill Collins, whose dad owned a Coca-Cola plant, were very close friends, along with a fellow named Freck Ray, who had a flower store on East Main Street, where the I think Top Hat used to be. There was a restaurant out there. It was.
He talks about Frick Ray as one of the people that he used to come back and when he visited him and Howdy Weber and Skip Beckley were the people he'd get together with.
Yeah, they were all buddies. Howdy and Freck, and there was one other one. Well, they used to go down to Dayton on the weekends, and they would have him get up and go through some of his people down there, and they'd eat and drink all like a Saturday night for him. There were three of them: Weber, Freck, and
he said Skip Beckley was another person that he hung out with. Was that him? Who it was?
I don't remember him.
We wanted to share some other pictures from the New Sun collection. We had the original pictures were all in the file, along with the clipping from the paper from 1955, talking about that they're hoping to get his own show the next year or so. So there's lots of clippings files in the New Sun stuff that's really great. But I really loved these. He's so expressive all the time. These are really great pictures there. He's got another clip where he talks a little bit more about his memories of Springfield that I wanted to share too.
Can you describe to me what Springfield was like when you were growing up? When you entered those galleries, did you see anything that kind of, stuck out?
Well, I remember, the things I remember are a little different. A lot of it's gone, of course, but I remember a place we used to hang out as kids, girls and boys alike, a place called the Sugar Bowl, which was someplace around the arcade, the old arcade. And we'd be dancing and doing our little number around the jukebox and having a 15-cent chocolate milkshake and a Coca-Cola and listening to 1 O'Clock Jump or something like that. I did a lot of hanging around places like that and was hoping to get lucky, as we would say. But I wasn't lucky because I didn't have a car. And when I meet a girl that had temporary eyes for me, it was, "Do you have a car, John?" "No, I don't." "Would you mind riding the bus?" "You gotta be kidding. A bus?" Well, not everybody had a car. There were only a handful of guys had cars. But of course, they had a lot of dates. Girls to this day don't like to ride on a bus. Boy, I guess so. There goes one now. At any rate, I remember, for instance, there was a place called Maddie's. Maddie was a gal, originally an older woman from, I believe, New Orleans, and she had a hamburger place in Myers Market. And the hamburgers weren't great. They were always, remember, they were very thin, but they were good. And I was always told they're solid meat. This isn't just local meat. This is from Kansas City, Chicago stockyards. But for many years, growing up in Springfield, every human being at one time or another went to Maddie's for a hamburger. Then there was, of course, the drive-in theater. We all went out there and put the little funny unit, the sound unit, and then proceeded to Neck. I think today it's called Suckface. French kissing is always kind of a nice way to say, oh, French leave something to be desired. But a lot of kissing and a lot of, please, no more. Can we really see the movie? I'd hoped we'd come to the movie. We have. Movie costs money. Parking here costs money. More kissing. No more, no more. So that was that. My love career was always so, pathetic. I wish I could come, even though I've been married all these years, and tell you of wonderful experiences. There were none. It was just, and I didn't consider myself an uggo. I thought I wasn't Howdy Weber. He was an extremely good-looking guy, still is. But I was kind of cute. I was never handsome, but I was cute. Face wasn't like Merlin, had the chiseled features, looked good. Looked better when I came out of the Marines, but I looked good going in. And, but I felt I ended up on the wanted list. I was in post offices and I hadn't stolen stamps. This is a guy watch out for. That's all. They just put me in with these criminals. And I was not a bad boy. I was always asking questions like, "Can I kiss you goodnight?" "No." "Why is that?" "I don't want to kiss you." Is my breath? I always had a little stuff like that. "No, I don't want to kiss you." "Let's don't start something we can't finish." "Oh, I intend to finish it." "No, no." So it was a lot of that. And that's the reason I went in the Marines. I certainly didn't want to kiss that many guys. But anyway, that goes out.
What about the movie houses, the State, Regent, Majestic?
Yes, I went to I hung out in the Regency. I saw they had the State Theater. I went there a lot. The Majestic was in there. I used to go in there something like 10 o'clock in the morning, 11, I guess. And we saw shorts, a couple of shorts, then 2 double features. So we were in there until about 5, a lot of popcorn. And then I remember the Hippodrome, which is really going back, the Fairbanks. They were kind of seedy theaters. There were a lot of older men sitting around you. "Hi, son. How's it going?" People that are around today more than ever. Got to watch them. Usually a sailor, with a lot of makeup on. But, yeah, I remember. And I worked at the Liberty Theater, which was owned by a very nice Greek man. I grew up with a lot of Greeks, too. And I had a little uniform. I remember it was quite shiny. It looked like a porter, or a conductor on a train. I guess a number of people, guys, had worn it. But I had kind of a dim flashlight. I remember going down the aisle, showing people to their seats. So being an usher was okay for a few months.
You described. I heard once that you were back in Springfield and you got kind of upstaged at a party by Howdy Weber.
Oh, Howdy, yes.
Do you have anything you'd like to say to Howdy about that?
Howdy when I went through the Heritage House, this son of a gun, we are just about the same age. I mean, a week or so apart, not like 6 months. We went to the Episcopal Church. We sang in the choir. They gave us $10 a year. We sang our lungs out. He went in the Air Force. He was a gunner, as you know. Most people in Springfield. He was a big hero for us. And went down in the North Sea and was captured by the Krauts and thank God made it back. Howdy, when I went into the Heritage House and I saw all this place, I thought, geez, I guess all my credits and everything have gone out the window. God bless Howdy. I don't think it was ever been a reason to be jealous of him. He's always been what I call a cute guy, and even though he's 76, my age, he's still a cute guy and he's still fun. And I'm very proud to know him as a friend, along with Freck Ray, who's another guy. My buddies are my buddies, and they're always good to see. I think many of us say, it's tough to go back home. I think it's how you go back. If you go back snapping your fingers and what's happening this time, Mickey Mouse saying, wait a minute, these people are still here, they're still living here. I enjoy going back home. because the dialogue is, they'll fill me in on who's around, and you don't have to look to the obituaries. This guy's a living newspaper. He's going to tell you what's going on, how the city's changed, and one thing and another.
Can you do a Howdy Weber impersonation?
God, Howdy Weber impersonation. Hey, John, how's it going, man? Good to see you. Hey, what's happening, huh? Hollywood, wild bunch of characters out there. You know, Ellie and I always go out to Vegas at least once or twice a year. Try to go at least twice. We stay at MGM. We were there the last time. Did a little bit of gambling. Wonderful. Hey, what am I thought I had my pipe in my hand. I guess it's gone. I gave that up. I have a cigarette now and then. I have a couple of beers, you know. I would say that he's classic manic depressive. Only I never saw the depressive side. Only the manic.
I know Howdy, and you nailed him. Okay, let's stand by, change tapes. I heard,
Here's Howdy. And picture from when he was serving in World War II also. Does anyone remember when he passed? I mean, this interview was over 20 years ago. I wasn't sure how, I meant to look that up, but I forgot. This is, well, so we've got, 2011, Molly says, is when he passed. So just a couple of years before Jonathan. There's one who always talks about the Heritage Center.
I think it's a great place. It's kind of a trite phrase on my part, but it is. It's a great place to hang out. It's kind of museum that you shouldn't really ever get tired of seeing again and again. And you don't have to go every day, but at least a couple of times a week. And it's like a couple of courses in history. And I think you benefit by, certainly if you're a native of Springfield or non-native, if you come from another place, you know, it's a great place to go and visit and see and absorb the history of the area. I think it's...
This is the final product promotional video that was put out for in 2001 for the opening of the Heritage Center. So it's kind of a time capsule in itself. There's some people on the call here that might recognize themselves in this video.
Hi, folks. At least once a year, I come back to my hometown of Springfield, Ohio, and visit with my old buddies Freck Ray, Howdy Weber, and Skip Beckley. And I always bring my Cincinnati Reds jacket in memory of another hometown friend, Brooks Lawrence, who had a successful career with the Reds. My trips are even more special now because of a new attraction in downtown Springfield, a place called the Heritage Center of Clark County. Thanks to the many donors and volunteers, this 112-year-old massive structure has been preserved and transformed into an historical museum that I believe is second to none in the nation. There are beautiful galleries filled with the rich history of pioneer days, Civil War artifacts, and war heroes, early industrialists, and entertainers. There's a magnificent space for rotating exhibits, large functions, and meetings, and a beautiful gift shop with one-of-a-kind items, such as my new book, Winter's Tales. The combination of this historic building and all the many artifacts has a magical effect on a person as they pass through each of the 4 galleries. Let's take a look inside.
The spirit of America is alive at the Heritage Center of Clark County. Here is where you'll discover the stories of real people, their hopes, fears, failures, and successes, illustrated through one-of-a-kind artifacts. Stepping into the National Road Gallery, you walk in the footsteps of the Western migration along America's Main Street, the National Road. Take some time to get acquainted with families who followed the road, enduring countless hardships in quest of the American dream. Along the way, you'll meet the tavern keepers, wagoners, African Americans, and truck drivers who lived and prospered on the turnpike. Explore farm life in the heartland. See labor-saving devices and homespun goods. Celebrate the marriage of agriculture and industry and the expansion of a town to a city, while you marvel at the volume and diversity of products made in hometown Springfield. In the Agriculture and Industry Gallery, you'll encounter Americans and American ingenuity, making their community and the world a better place to live.
It was a right smart exchange of shots. I was reloading with my powder horn.
The Clash of the Cultures Gallery takes you back to the Battle of Piqua as pioneers and Native Americans claimed the Ohio wilderness as their own. The roar of muskets mixed with war cries will lure you into the Frontier Theater. Relive the momentous events of Ohio's largest Revolutionary War battle.
Clark brought up his artillery and began to blast the Shawnees out of their shelters. The bark flew.
In the Service to the Nation Gallery, pause to remember and honor the heroism of those men and women who throughout history were willing to serve in the military. The ultimate sacrifice that has guaranteed your place in the American dream. The rotating gallery, our largest open space, can accommodate massive exhibits and large gatherings. This ever-changing gallery adds new dimension to the Heritage Center every time you visit. Nothing tells the story as well as the Heritage Center. A visit here is like seeing an old friend or discovering new ones. It's the saga of people's lives, people like you. It is your heritage, your connection to the past, your window to the future. The Heritage Center is a place where people of all ages want to learn more about themselves and their community. There's a library for contemplation and study with space to research and write. And as a result of collecting physical reminders of the past and the present, it is a living repository of knowledge and experience. Opportunities for interactive learning flourish here. Children visiting on school tours are encouraged to touch reproduction artifacts so they can personally encounter the past. It is a place where a young person can internalize, embrace, and understand his or her individual contributions. Most of all, the Heritage Center is a place to have fun. In its short life, it has already become a favorite spot where people like to get together. There's a room for business and social meetings, larger functions such as dances and parties and special events, a store to browse and purchase an interesting book or unusual gift, and a coffee house with great food and wonderful atmosphere. As you can see, the great American spirit is alive at the Heritage Center. Remembering and reliving the past is the only way to preserve our future.
Now that I've shared with you some of the wonderful experiences you can have at the Heritage Center, why don't you come and see for yourself the magnificent world-class facility right in your own backyard? The smiles on faces and sparkles in eyes are proof that this museum brings out the wow in Springfield. It's your history, and you deserve it. The Springfield Clark County Heritage Center is more than a museum.
So I'm glad that we got to sit down. Well, Paul got to sit down with him to make that promo, and get some more stories from him. He's got some great quotes, advice for life, and I wanted to include those. And this is one of the records that we have in the collection, from one of his recordings. But I'll stop sharing my screen now. If you guys have any other stories or anything that you would like to share, or questions that you have, we can do that now. Jane has put some links in the chat there for if you're interested in donating anything, an artifact or photograph or things like that. You can talk to us. There's a form where you can contact the curatorial staff, and then there's also a link for any monetary donation if you're interested in doing that as well. That helps to support the Heritage Center and preservation projects and all sorts of things. So, but yeah, Jonathan Winters, my exposure to him was mostly through, I knew him from Mork and Mindy, and I have to say that I felt kind of for the past 10 years, I've felt a more close connection to him because my grandfather, who was born in 1920, passed 3 days before him on April 8th in 2013. So I was back at work on the 11th when Jonathan Winters passed, and we saw that news, and I kind of thought to myself, well, that's really cool. They're up there telling jokes, and he's hanging out with him with my grandma. So I always kind of felt like a special connection afterwards to him, that, you know, knowing that he was they were up there together. So I thought that was, and it made me kind of watch more stuff than that I hadn't seen after his passing. Just a lot of the clips that I'd seen that we have here, and other things that I knew about him. So,
well, I might say that if people want to visit the museum, in between the restroom area and the rest of the hallway, there's a display that has the Alumni of Distinction Award plaques, and Jonathan Winters was one of the first 10 people who was honored by the Alumni of Distinction Awards for the Springfield City School District. It's on the board, the first one.
I had forgotten about that, Marianne. Yeah, he received a lot of recognition for his career. He received a Mark Twain Award in '99, and he had a couple of honorary degrees. I think he had one from UD as well, locally, but he probably had other ones around the country. But I'm glad to know that he was honored by Springfield High School like that with the Alumni of Distinction. He certainly did a lot as an alumnus. Well, if you wanted to come look through the archives to see some of what we have, we've got the Springfield News Sun has 2 folders on him. It has all the clippings from his career, and all the original photos that they used whenever he came here. They've got those ones in there, and then there's some general AP photos and stuff like that. And then we have a general clippings file in our biographical category in the archives with stuff that we've clipped from the Springfield News Sun throughout the years about him. Artifact wise, there really isn't, we don't really have anything. But I know that I don't think she was able to make it, but I talked to his daughter Lucille about coming to this program, and she said that there was the museum where Lucille Ball is from had a temporary exhibit about him, and they were sending the stuff back. So we might talk to them about if that's something that we can bring here to help share about his life, something in the museum. But we're happy to have archival material or anything on him, because yeah, funny guy, definitely. So it's nice to be able to represent him and share him with people. So our our next virtual program that we'll be doing is on May 10th. Is that right? Yes, with the whole sizers, Bob and Flossie, will be about local genealogy, how you can find stuff here at the Heritage Center and how you can find other stuff just in general online and around town. So we'll be kind of going through what resources are available to people. And then our June program that we're working on is with the ham radio club, amateur radio, that they are going to do a program about radio, focusing on ham, and we'll have a display here at the Heritage Center during the summer. So, does anybody have any questions or anything else they want to share? All right. Well, thanks.
Thank you for giving this.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad people could come. We'll see you guys at the next one, and I want to thank you all for coming tonight. And have a great night.
Good night.